Riddle me this, riddle me that. Who's afraid of the big black bat? We're finally talking about Batman today on the Yummy Buds Cafe, with probably one of my favorite stories, Batman stories ever, Batman Zero Year. Let's talk about it now. Here we go. So this is the book, Batman Zero Year, Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo on the art, Scott Snyder writing. So like I said in the intro, this is basically, signed by Scott Snyder as well. So like I said in the intro, this is basically a newer version of the origin of Batman. And probably, in my opinion, the definitive origin of Batman. I know there's a lot of people who love Year One. I love Year One as well, but I like this a little bit more. So we do start where it's Gotham 6 years ago, because of course we're still in the New 52 timeline, so 6 years before the current New 52 stuff going on. And we get to see Batman with this one kid named Duke. We're going to learn more about that later in it. This is kind of a flashback or a flash forward. Now we do a flashback where we start where we are, 5 months earlier. So we're starting where Bruce is not exactly Batman yet, but he is trying to be a vigilante. And one of the things that he is doing is he's trying to take down this gang of thugs, specifically known as the Red Hood Gang. The Red Hood Gang has taken over, they're trying to take over a lot of Gotham, and they're causing a lot of damage. Gotham is still corrupt, of course, all that with the mob and all that stuff, where Batman's going to come in and try to save the day, or Bruce is going to try and come in and make a difference. But anyway, yeah, we do start here with a 0 year, where Bruce is exactly a little more, he's a little more reckless compared to what we normally used to Bruce being, especially towards Alfred. And one of the things that's created this sequence here is he's trying to catch this one truck with the scrap lake hook, and Alfred keeps telling him that sir, the weight's not going to hold, and Bruce is like, Alfred, just shut up. But of course, he misaccounted for the fact that there were other hostages in the truck adding weight to the truck, so it didn't go according to his previous calculation. And by that also it ends up where the truck gets folded into the water, and Bruce decides to flip off the Red Hood Gang. And while that is going on, Bruce is lifting some weights here. Alfred's talking to him. Specifically, I will say one thing that's kind of interesting about this version is, and in general, the New 52 version of Alfred, is Alfred's very much a lot of this is inspired by the Nolan movies. So if you like those movies, great. If not, this may annoy you a little bit. Particularly, there are certain things with the Nolan movies I like. Alfred's not one of them, so I'm a little annoyed they kind of took this interpretation. Basically, to sum it up, is Alfred's not exactly fully on board with the whole idea of the mission and Batman and all that, which here in the beginning it's a little more understandable, but more throughout the run you'll see that it does get a little grating. But anyway, yeah, that's where Alfred's stance is on this. He's not exactly thrilled with this, and he thinks he should just take over the company and be Bruce Wayne. Even this starts where Bruce doesn't exactly want to be, he doesn't want to be back in the public. He wants to be anonymous, doesn't want anything to do with with Wayne Enterprises or anything like that. But then enters his uncle Philip Kane, who actually ends up playing a role in that, and eventually gets it where Bruce is back in the public eye. One of the things that's interesting about the story too is we get these in between the issues, we get these little flashbacks with Bruce, basically showing more of the gaps of what he was doing before he returned to Gotham. Yeah, because the story starts where it starts after the point where Bruce like traveled around the world and did all of his training and did all that. This basically starts back where he's back in Gotham, but before he becomes Batman. But we get these little stories in between as like backups. And we get to see some of his early techniques. One of the things is he's constantly using these disguises, these like masks. Like at one point, he actually disguised himself as like Oswald as the Penguin. And we get this flashback to when Bruce first falls into a bat cave and interacts with the bats, much like Batman Begins. And yeah, this is the moment here where Bruce gets revealed to the world. He's just like, oh no. Yeah, he was meant to met with his Uncle Philip. Like they were meant to go to like the museum to have a talk, and then basically Uncle Philip traps him. But what's cool about this sequence is he ends up getting away from the crowd, and he meets the villain of this story, Edward Nygma, the Riddler. And I gotta say, one thing that's cool about this, Riddler is actually my favorite Batman villain and one of my all-time favorite villains. So to have it in this continuity that Riddler is actually the first villain that he deals with is pretty cool. And also one thing too is we get this sequence here where Bruce and Nygma are like talking to each other. Bruce is getting info from Nygma. Like he's trying to find a way to escape from here, and Nygma's just like telling him different riddles and all this. But they do it in a clever sequence here where Capullo draws this Egyptian like Sphinx, and you actually get to see it like play through where it gives you the numbers and what order you need to go. Which is pretty cool, and then of course, like he does solve the riddle where he goes, the exit. You said earlier it was through the Avery ring up ahead, but there is no Avery ring. Egyptian Sphinx are some of the only Sphinx with no wings. Most have wings like birds on their backs. Up ahead. Try harder next time, Nygma. And also at one point he ends up going back home. He goes back to like his apartment where he is ambushed by the Red Hood gang. And one of the things that's interesting also about the Red Hood gang is the leader, specifically Red Hood 1. His personality seems a little familiar. I'll just say that. To a certain other character. You'll probably get the connection later on. But there is a certain tease about him. We also do find out as well that Philip is actually working for Nygma. Nygma is Philip's strategist. He's basically being blackmailed by the Red Hood gang to get Bruce back into the company and like just to get like Bruce like out of the way. And at one point Nygma suggests we should just kill Bruce. Philip of course doesn't want to do that. And then we get this really cool scene where earlier in the book, his father, Bruce's father, talks about this one orb that he created, this like holographic orb that he could use to like map out like construction areas and all that. And one of the things that happens is that at one point he uses that orb to save Bruce from the Batcave when he fell in the Batcave. So the data from the orb still has that Batcave from all those years ago. So at one point, after Bruce gets beat down by the Red Hood gang and Alfred patches him up, he accidentally turns the orb on, and his whole main living room, it now looks like a bat cave. And we get this moment here with these holographic bats, and we get basically Snyder's version of the Year One moment where it's yes, Father, I shall become a bat. But what's cool though, that I don't hear a lot of people talk about in this is, and I think some people might have missed this, is that the hologram does show like a bat cave, But at one point, the hologram ball ends up falling off the table and breaks, so it turns off the hologram. But if you see briefly in this panel right here, there is still a bat here. That bat was not a hologram. So this moment was meant to happen even without the hologram. And then we lead into probably one of the coolest issues ever, one of the coolest single issues ever is this is the night where Batman debuts. He gets a new haircut, he's rocking it. And we get this great moment where it's basically almost like a homage to the animated series intro. Another thing that's great about this book is that this book to me is almost like a love letter to Batman. Like there's a lot of like callbacks and references, which is interesting considering that this is an origin story, but it's really cool of like how much stuff Snyder puts in here and how much Capullo draws. And then another great homage as well, the homage to the Detective Comics 27 cover. So there is at one point where Bruce Wayne does come out to finally talk to some of Gotham, but also mentions that the Red Hood gang has a big plan at Ace Chemicals. They're trying to like get these like chemicals to like blow up the city or something. I don't remember the exact plot. I mean, it's been a while. Well, no, I remember it, but basically they want to they want to leverage the city, basically. But we get this moment where Bruce does make that press conference where he talks about what the Red Hood gang is doing to obviously spoil the Red Hood's plans, but also to alert the cops as well to it. And kind of lures it as a trap for the Red Hood gang, where they think they kidnapped Bruce Wayne, but then they run into Batman. And we get this great moment where Bruce and Alfred are able to like hack the night vision goggles of the Red Hood members to make it seem like as if Batman is catching Bruce Wayne. So it basically already now negates the possibility of Bruce Wayne and Batman being the same person, which I think is really cool. And then we get this big moment here where Batman shows up. They're like, it's the Bat, because like Batman's been rumored for a bit now at this point. I mean, he just started maybe like a week ago at this point. And then there's Red Hood 1. You get to see his eyes for the first time, and he just goes, hello there. And also, one thing I want to talk about, too, is I want to talk about the Zero-Year suit. I love this suit. This, to me, is probably one of my all-time favorite Batman suits, and what's cool about it is that it's a nice, like, homage to the Golden Age suit. Again, more homaging in this story. So you got the purple gloves, you have the longer ears, you have the classic black bat symbol in there. With like a monitor taking out some of those black, not exactly sure what they're called, but they're on there as well, like almost like motorcycle type gear. It's pretty cool. I love this outfit. Probably one of my favorite Batman suits. Fortunately, one thing that happens also here is Batman's uncle, his Uncle Philip ends up getting killed because he tries to save Bruce because he was actually a member of the Red Hood gang at one point. And we get this big confrontation with Red Hood 1. And of course we get this where the bridge is about to collapse. Batman tries to save him and he just goes, ha! Wouldn't you like to think so? No, see? It's only just the beginning. And Red Hood 1 ends up falling into an acid. Into a vat of acid. I'll leave it at that. So after that, we get this little epilogue story from it. Like I said, I love Batman issue 24. This is the issue itself. This is issue 24. Like, probably to be one of the best single issues I've ever read of a comic. So, but after this, we get this this epilogue, and we find out that the Riddler has now decided to fully make his debut, and one of the things that he does is he shuts down the power from Gotham. So Gotham right now has no power. And we go to the second act of the story, Dark City. Which is another cool thing I like about this story is that the story is basically told in like 3 acts. So the first half we talked about here was Secret City. This is Dark City now. And then we'll get to the third one, Savage City, in a second. I'm just going to briefly go over Dark City real quick. Basically what happens is we get the debut of the Batmobile, which is pretty cool. And also we kind of get like, while all the Blackout stuff is going on, we get kind of a break from Riddler. And we get this other villain, a classic Golden Age villain. Again, so many homages. We get a classic Golden Age villain, Dr. Death, who is using these experiments to like turn people into like bones and kill them, and some crazy stuff going on here. But more specifically, more importantly, is we get to explore more of Bruce and Gordon's relationship. And at this point, Bruce is actually not a big fan of Jim, because I won't give too much away. Again, it's a review, it's not a whole full breakdown. But basically, Bruce as a kid sees Gordon do something that he thought Gordon actually did, but finds out later on that that's not fully the truth. And the main part of this section is basically building up Bruce and Gordon's relationship. Yeah, this is the moment I was talking about here. This is the flashback. And we actually get to see the origin of Jim's coat. And that's what plays into that flashback of where Bruce's feelings for Jim come from. And then we do get this cool moment here where Batman ends up trying to stop Dr. Death from doing something, and he ends up going to like this lighthouse, and he's assaulted by the cops because the cops get tipped off by the Riddler. And as he's like getting away from them, Gordon ends up saving him. Gordon takes him on his boat. And one of the things that's cool is at one point Batman's mask is like really screwed up, and Gordon says, you probably should like take that off because it's probably not good for your face right now. And Batman, of course, doesn't want to do it because he doesn't trust him. And then Gordon goes, all right, we'll do this. Takes his glasses off and says, look, I'm basically blind without my glasses, so all you gotta do now is I'll drive the boat, but you have to be my eyes. And we get this moment of how, and basically we get this moment where Gordon does explain what exactly happened on that day originally with Bruce as a kid. Basically, it ended up being the, I don't think it was the same day. It wasn't the day his parents get murdered, but it was close to it. But we get more of that backstory and Batman realizing that oh, maybe I was wrong about Jim Gordon. Maybe he is a good guy. Nice Dark Knight Returns reference there. And we're going to get another one this in a second, another Dark Knight Returns reference, because at one point now, we find out that Riddler's main end game is that he basically, at one point, what he wants is, he wants Gotham to turn the power back on, because he's hacked the Gotham central power for his own nefarious scheme. And so basically what he wants is, he wants the power to turn back on. So Batman's trying to stop the police and all that from turning it back on. Of course, the police don't believe Batman or Alfred or Gordon or anyone. And one of the things I like about this story too is that it really is very like hopeful and talks more about how heroes can be like anyone, and of course with someone like Batman who does have powers and all that, he can do all that. Like even at one point they talk about here where he actually ends up seeing the Mark of Zorro, and his dad asks what he thinks about it, and Bruce says he thinks it was kind of corny, because why would like a guy with a sword lose, or why would a guy with a sword be able to like beat guys with like guns? And like Thomas basically explains to him, he's like, yeah, but like anyone could be a hero, anyone could do that. Like he says, still dumb? I mean, a guy using what he has to fight for people who can't always fight for themselves. But see, now you got got me second guessing it, I suppose the only solution is to see it together right now. Yeah, so we get this moment where Batman gets his debut, also his bat blimp, where he's trying to stop Riddler's weather balloon, and here's this other Dark Knight Returns homage. Not to give too much away, but basically Batman ultimately fails, and because of the power getting turned back on by the police, Riddler ends up flooding the entire city and ends up taking control of Gotham. And I love this moment here where everything's going to hell, and as you're seeing like the city getting destroyed, the city getting flooded, Bruce is seeing like flashbacks of Thomas and Martha's death, and it ends with just a simple moment of Bruce crying, "Help!" Which leads us into the final act of the story, Savage City. So you can see here, this is what Riddler now basically has done to the city. He actually ended up using Poison Ivy's formula to like make more plant life around the city. He's basically made the world into like a post-apocalyptic world where his goal is he wants to reset the city because he feels like everyone's become like dumb and everyone's relied too much on technology. So he believes that that either you get smart or you die. So Riddler's whole challenge at one point is, well, before that, Bruce, when he ends up getting wiped out by the flood, he ends up getting saved by this one family, specifically this one kid named Duke. So yeah, you guys are familiar. This is actually the debut of Duke Thomas, this story. So one of the things that is going on is Riddler is using, well, he's not using anything. Riddler constantly comes on the screen every day to challenge the people of Gotham to give him a riddle that he possibly could solve. And the challenge is that if you out-riddle the Riddler, he'll turn the power back on. And you have this one gentleman that tries it. Riddler guesses it in 2 seconds because he knows who the gentleman is, and based on his background, he knows what the riddle already would have been about. But anyway, we get this moment where at one point, Gordon, Batman, and Lucius Fox end up working together. I love this. Gentlemen, meet my friend, the effing psycho in the bat suit. No offense. None taken. I love this cover of Batman just holding a bow and arrow. Even though he doesn't use a bow and arrow in the story at all, but still a cool image. And we get this moment specifically now where, so basically, Batman, Gordon, and Lucius are trying to trace Riddler's signal to figure out where he is. So at one point, Batman has to basically talk to Riddler on the screen, and he's got to stall for time while Lucius can hack the trace. And we find out that it's going to take them at least 20 minutes. The problem is keeping Riddler on the screen for that long, which Batman manages to do by making up his own riddle and kind of plays up Enigma's ego a bit. Not going to give too much more away in the story. But eventually there does come to a point where they end up finding Riddler. And they find him where we started back at the beginning. Back at the Gotham Museum. Back at that Egyptian exhibit. Where the big final confrontation. Batman is in this trap in this space, and what does he have to do? He has to answer these riddles. Every riddle he gets right gets him closer. Every riddle he gets wrong is one step closer to destroying the city fully. And then finally, Batman is able to solve all the riddles, and he's able to finally take down the Riddler. While Gordon is also showing, because one of the other things that's going on is eventually, because Gotham is like considered like a wasteland, the government decides to throw a nuclear strike at Gotham. So Gordon's role at the end of this climax is he's got to like stall them from doing it, and he uses the bat signal to show like Batman's got this. Don't blow up our city. Please give us hope. And one of the cool moments is at one point to finally get full power back to the city, Riddler reveals that he's had this device that links up the power to the city was linked to his heart. Batman takes the device, uses it himself, and Batman gives power back to the city because Batman is the heart of Gotham. Eventually, Riddler is taken down. And the story does end kind of in a bittersweet way where Alfred has this hallucination where he sees Bruce end up falling in love with this one girl who is introduced in the story but has really not much to play in the story itself, so I didn't really talk about her. But yeah, basically Alfred has this like vision that Bruce ends up like having a normal life and a family and all that. And Alfred's like, oh, of course. But then you find out it's all a hallucination, and he's accepted the reality now that Bruce is fully Batman. Where it says, "I'm so sorry, miss, but I'm afraid he's spoken for." And that is Batman Zero Year. So yeah, overall, Batman Zero Year, really, really great story. One of my all-time favorite Batman stories. Love it to death. Like, I still think it holds up as his definitive origin. Again, if you prefer Year One, I get it. I prefer this. It's pick and choose. Doesn't really matter. But yeah, to me, I do love this origin. I love this story. It's very hopeful, very inspiring. I know Snyder himself loves it as well. I think he said this is like his favorite story in his whole run. Actually, yeah, he even told me that when I met him. But yeah, really, really great story. I especially love all the homages to like Batman lore, like the references to like Dark Knight Returns, having the purple gloves, the Golden Age suit, Batman the Animated Series. Like this story is basically just a big love letter to Batman. So if you're a fan of Batman and you haven't read this yet, highly recommend to check it out. Give this book a try. You can find it here in this trade I have, or of course if you want to go more, because again we're the Omnibus Cafe, you want to go with the Omnibus route. It is collected in Batman Omnibus by Scott Snyder Volume 1. So definitely check it out, and I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.
If you're looking for great deals on collected edition comics or manga, we recommend shopping at panelboundcomics.com. They offer free shipping on orders over $30, plus bundled discounts to help you save even more. And if you're shopping from Europe or the UK, comicsbugle.com offers free EU shipping and a rewards program for regular buyers. Don't forget to use our discount codes at checkout.